Hello everyone, and welcome to today's stream. I'm Fernando, and today I will bring you another episode of Learning with Fernando. And it's one of the things you might have noticed. I've been restructuring my channel a little bit. I'm working harder on the thumbnails, on naming the videos and everything, and I will discuss this in a little bit. I really want to push my channel a little bit forward to make things a little bit more enjoyable for both me and the viewers, and let's see how everything goes. And hello Kratos, I've already seen that you are in the chat tonight. Before beginning my rant, and I will rant today before going into the presentation about research for writing fiction. Today I'm in a chatty mood, I'm in a ranty mood, so let's pour the first cup of tea of the stream and try not to cause an accident. Okay. Tea has been successfully poured with only minimum spillage. Konnichiwa Pedro, welcome to the stream. Thank you very much for coming today. And as I was saying, I'm in a mood to chant a lot and to chat a lot. And one of the reasons is today I finished reading. Let me put it on the angle so it's better seen by the lights. I finished reading Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. I really enjoyed this book. It was great, and all of these books I've been reading the Brandon Sanderson, the Year of the Sanderson, the Kickstarter and everything. Besides being very beautiful, the content of all of them is being completely worth it. Sometimes when you love an author or a music artist or something, you're always afraid of their next production, their next album, their next book. You support them, but you always feel like, man, they can't keep this level of quality forever, when maybe the next book will be the one where they are finally going to disappoint me, because no one's perfect, and of course, it's normal, people have... But no, I'm always expecting, maybe this book will not be so great, and then Brandon Sanderson just comes and bam, another great book delivered, and then huge hit after huge hit. And welcome Zoom, welcome to today's stream. And Yumi and the Nightmare Painter has lots of great thematics, of course, and a very good story, but two of the things... Konnichiwa, welcome Philippe, welcome to tonight's stream. Two of the main points of this book, of Yumi and Nightmare Painter, it talks a lot about art and stories, the importance of stories, the importance of art, the process of creating art, how the intention of the artist is important. It has a very meaningful topic for nowadays discussion, which is art created by humans versus art generated by machines. And I think that's a really relevant topic. And it talks a lot about art, about stories, about storytelling, and it also talks a lot about people. Last stream I had a quote from this book, and that emphasizes that this is a story about people, about characters. Characters are not... people are not just one or two traits, they are complex, and this book really makes the characters shine in their interactions. And one of the notes on this book, one of the topics, was sometimes the importance of communicating positivity and positive traits. That's very important in one of the parts. And what do I mean by that? For example, if you have a friend and that friend is annoying because, let's say, what's a random example? He is loud at eating, for example, and that annoys you. You maybe complain to that friend all the time that he's loud at eating. We talk a lot about the negative traits, but that same friend, maybe you also think he's amazing for 100 different factors. You think, oh, that guy is super incredible, he talks like this, he has this passion, he has this and that, but we are more quick to point out the negative traits than the positive ones. And this is like my wholesome message of the day. remember to look at people who are around you, either family, friends, people who inspire you, and try to point out their positives sometimes. Like, sometimes we take the positives of people for granted, that, oh, this guy is very nice, and of course he knows he's nice, because he's wholesome and everything. But then you go, and that person has not heard enough other people recognizing and say, oh, you are really a nice guy, because we take it for granted. He's a nice guy, he knows he's nice. But sometimes, and this is also very valid for artists, one of the most common trend you find in all artists is when they are doing paintings and everything, every single artist says, oh, my art sucks, my art is terrible. And they are not knowing artists, they are not saying that to bait for compliments. No, they really believe their art is bad, some of them, and it doesn't matter how many times you tell them, no, it's great, it's awesome. Artists are creative people. The same creativity they employ to create worlds of wonder, they employ that same creativity to convince themselves in a million ways that those compliments are not honest or they are not worthy of them, and they always find a way to dodge and, nah, I'm not that great, I have these millions of reasons I've just summoned up. And hello once again, Krantosh, I assumed you were here before, but maybe you've just arrived, hello. But yeah, I was saying, acknowledge positive traits and communicate them with people. Try to, this week or next week, go to someone you know, someone you appreciate for this or for that, and go to them and say, oh, you're a great guy because of this, because you're very nice. Or even, it could be character traits, it could be physical traits, sometimes, oh, hey bro, you have a great beard. You can make someone's day or someone's week by just doing a comment like that. And the other thing, there's one more thing I wanted to mention, but it completely went away as I was saying. Yeah, compliment personality traits, complement physical traits, and also skills. If you see someone who's very good at cooking, at painting, at writing, at doing sports, an actual a competence, like a skill, also communicate it positive. Bring positiveness and joy and everything. I just post an emoji when I open the link, and then I went to the food and drink, so I officially arrived now. Oh, okay. And hello, King Ameno, you've just missed like 8 minutes of wholesome talk. I mean, in the mood for wholesomeness. Okay. I was on the topic of acknowledging positivity, acknowledging positive influences, and I'm someone, me personally, I consider myself to be someone who has been very positively influenced by others. Growing up, I had the huge blessing of having amazing friends. I have also an amazing family. I won't name everyone, every single friend, every single family member or everything. I've been surrounded by many positive influences, and that really it was a part of making me who I am today. And even nowadays in chat I have so many. This is such a positive place, and I hope as the channel grows, and I hope it grows, but I also hope it maintains this positive vibe, this wholesome environment. And another huge personal influence I have, of course, I've talked millions of times, is Brandon Sanderson, the one who motivated me to become a writer. And since I'm acknowledging positive influences, and since I'm streaming right now, there's 3 channels I wanted to acknowledge. One of them, I've talked about him many times, and I'm placing the link to his YouTube channel here in the chat. Eisen, he's the one who, watching his streams was what convinced me to become a streamer, and becoming a streamer has definitely been a positive change in my life, because the person I am when streaming and off streaming are not exactly the same person, but they are also not completely separate persons. No, there's like a 90% overlap between the two of them, and streaming has been great for me, and I carry some of those positive traits to my everyday life. And watching Aizen's channel, we met thanks to studying Japanese in a very random moment. Basically, just to tell the story very quickly, we were both in a line and the line was chaos, and there was a moment where me and Kratos were looking behind us and, oh, that guy's judging us, he thinks we've cut the line. And Aizen was looking at us, oh, those two guys are looking at me, they think I'm cutting the line. And then we start discussing and we start talking, and out of that random moment 1 year ago, a great friendship blossomed. And I linked his YouTube channel because since I'm in YouTube I prefer to link YouTube channels, but he mainly streams on Twitch. A great guy, great fellow, Aizen, and his streams are focused on studying Japanese, and nowadays he takes a more relaxed approach to streaming. I think he's not like in the grind set, I want to have a huge channel and everything. He just does it to enjoy himself, and that's great. Streaming and content creation is a lot about finding what works for you and doing it. There's no one mold fits all. Then Aizen is the first shout out, he's, as I said. And oh, besides that, when I asked about him, oh, I enjoy your streams, maybe I should start streaming as well. He was always very supportive, very positive, go for it, you'll love it, go enjoy. And when my channel is doing great, he sent me like messages, oh, you are getting more views, your channel is growing. So thank you very much for motivating me and for your continued support, Aizen. The second channel I want to talk about is Maru. I've also talked about her on stream, and when you see the bookshelf cam, you see some stickers of Holo members. They were designed by Maru. We have here the tiny Maru figure. Oh, the link didn't send. She also mainly streams on Twitch, but I also include the link for the YouTube channel for the same reason as Aizen. She's an artist and a VTuber, and I want to congratulate her because developing your own model for VTubing and everything, it's not an easy task at all. It's very time consuming, very hard, and creating the model, rigging everything. And she and Ryuji did lots of work behind the scenes to prepare everything. It was a, let's say, a journey, a huge journey. And last week, I think it was last week or this week, she finally debuted her 3D model. She used to use an open source model. Now she's using her own model created by her, designed by her, and that's a huge feat. That deserves a congratulations. Her streams are very enjoyable, very chill space, very relaxed. I always have a good time there. Then we are having a relaxed time, then people start getting sidetracked and you are discussing food, and it's a great place to discuss food and coffee and everything. I haven't had the blessing of talking that much with her, but she seems OP and a great person. Yeah, she was a great person, and nowadays I consider myself to be an acquaintance of her, but I asked her some technical questions when we still didn't know who each other was, and she was really supportive, a really great person, and yeah. That's the second, since I'm in the mood for shoutouts and acknowledgements. And her streams as well were another place that my enjoyment for streaming grew. Aizen was the first one to plant the seed of, okay, I want to stream, but Maru's streams, I also been there before starting my own streams, was another place of huge positivity. Of I was watching the community and everything, and I was like, this is what I want for me. So that's the second great inspiration. And I was just looking at the time. We will go to learning with Fernando in a minute. I said I was in a chatty mood. So here I am, and now we come to the third shout out, and this is a more recent shift. As you've probably been noticing on my Discord, on my YouTube content and everything, my enjoyment for content creation has taken a huge leap in the last couple of weeks, last 2 months. And one of the reasons for that is because I've changed a lot my perspective on how I tackle content creation, how I do things. And one of the channels that really motivated me, really inspired me. Maybe it was one of the great driving forces behind all of these changes. I'm going to link him here. He's a growing VTuber called Junk and Bomb, and I always say, when it comes to books, arts, paintings, whatever it is, there's no perfect book, no perfect art form. What you can find is not the perfect book, but the right book for you at that moment. And that was kind of the role Junk and Bomb streams filled for me. They were exactly the streams I was needing to find at that moment. It's a very positive place, very wholesome. Junk and Bomb is, he's a VTuber, but all his aesthetics, he's very, Oji-san is the right word, but to translate it into English, he's very, looks like an uncle, a wholesome, supportive uncle, and looking at his streams, looking at his content, looking at how he interacts with chat, it's one of the things, yeah, King Ameno, Junk and Bomb is everyone's uncle. Looking at his streams really motivated me. It was like, it really made me want to improve my channel, to present myself the best. And even this last Friday, yeah, between Friday and Saturday, he did an amazing stream, an incredible stream. It was a collaboration between Junk and Bomb and Regis Alter from All Stars, who is an enormous VTuber, and that stream was simply amazing. It was so awesome. There was a moment during that stream where both of them were like, "Oh, I respect your work so much, you are so amazing," and the other one, "Oh no, you are an indie, you are doing your best, I have so much respect for you." And they were just going back and forth, complimenting each other in such a wholesome and positive way. The whole stream is incredible, but that moment, it's right at the start, really sold it out for me. And there's another moment. Yeah, Zoom, yeah, you are inside the scene of VTubers, you know who Alter is. And for an indie VTuber to collab with Alter, it's huge. It was... And there are people who, when they see others succeed, they're like, it should have been me, and they start feeling rage. When I look at people who I met, people who I support, and I see them succeed, when I see Junk and succeed, or Brandon Sanderson, or whoever it is, I just feel so motivated. I love watching other people succeed. It makes me want to try a lot harder, and this stream was one of those moments. Watching him collab with Alter, having all those viewers, and it just made me happy for him, and it made me want to also give my best, to also reach a point where I'm like living the dream, let's say it. And that's another thing. Junk and Bomb, like myself, he's a dreamer. He's like, I want to achieve things, and we have that in common. I'll only talk 2 more things about Junk and Bomb, then we will move on. First, one of the things I love, when he ends his streams, he always, like, his voice drops a tone, he goes into the stream ending mode, and he starts giving an inspiration talk like, be great, be the best version of yourself, do amazing, and that inspirational talk, I feel that. I feel the positivity. He's really inspiring for his viewers. And the final thing I want to discuss, I think one of the goals and dreams of every content creator, not every, but most of them, is having his own thing. Like, I want to have my show, for example. I'm speaking in general terms, it's not my goal. And that's one of the reasons that motivated me to create Writing with Chat. I wanted the Writing with Chat to be my thing, but I don't think it is a good thing. The more I think about that format, the more I think it's doomed to fail. But Junk and Bomb has one format he created. He calls the show Bomb Stars, because he's Junk and Bomb, and it's a joke between Pawn Stars and Bomb Stars. And that show, in my opinion, is a masterpiece. His whole personality, besides being an uncle, is being someone who is in the front of a store, a pawn shop, and this show is basically, it has 2 types of episodes. One is viewers submit items, and when I say viewers, it could be anyone. You could submit an item, Kratos, you could submit an item, Zumo, and he reviews the items on stream and talks about them. And maybe if you check the third episode, you can find 3 of my items there already. And the other is when he invites a guest, and the guest can present tons of items, and then Junk and Pom reviews the items and says if he would buy them or not. And that's where the collab with Altair happened. Altair was there as a collector of items, and Junk and Pom reviewed the items he was going to present, and it was really great just seeing the two of them nerding out over. It was mostly, I don't want to spoil it, I don't want to say what the items were. If you are interested, check it after the stream. Please check my stream first. But yeah, this was a long opening talk, I'm aware of that. But as I said, I want to take a chill approach to streaming in general. And I also said that I wanted to convert the Learning with Fernando episodes, these presentation styles of streaming, to a more relaxed format, and I think I'm achieving it. So that brings us to today's topic, research for writing fiction. And when I made this presentation, I feel like I'm only scratching the surface. I feel like I needed more time and more slides, and this in of itself could have made an entire series on research for writing fiction, but let's go on with it. First, one thing you need to take into account when we are talking about research for writing fiction, and what I'm going to say, is that not all research for writing fiction is factual. When you are doing the word research is unfortunately very broad. Research can mean millions of things, and when you are doing scientific research, for example, you need to have a structured methodology, you need to know the sources and everything, review things. You can be rigorous when write research for fiction, and it depends on what kind of research you are doing, of course, but don't be too rigorous. Also enjoy the process of researching, also tackle each research topic as its own. Not all research needs to be factual. I want to make this first distinction. Second, when you are researching for fiction, your goal is not to make like a huge research, a huge presentation or anything. The main focus of your research when you are writing a book is yourself. You are researching for yourself. You are researching to give you tools, you are researching to improve your work, and you need to keep that in mind. You are not doing this. There are times where we need to research for others, when you are part of a community and everything, and there are times where you need to be greedy. When you are researching for writing, you need to be your focus, your enjoyment of the process, how you are processing information, how you are managing it. You must be your own center, basically. And hello, Stephanie, welcome to the stream. And as Kratos said, we are just we are just starting the presentation. Motivation and enjoyment is key. That for everything, researching can be excruciating. It can also be very nice and a very pleasurable thing. And how you tackle research will define your enjoyment of it. And there are times where we need to get out of the comfort zone and we need to research things we don't like, and unfortunately not everything can be enjoyable. There are times where even if you love research, there are times where you will be very bored when researching, but I mean, it's part of the part of the work, let's say. You need to pace your research efforts and research outcomes, and that's for that I say, like, maybe one day a week is for research, or maybe half the day is for research and the other half is for writing, or maybe you don't research at all because that's how you roll. Maybe you write everything first, and then at the end, only during the review process, will you do research. Maybe you don't like to write things you are not confident, so first you do all the research and then you do all the writing. So it's about pacing your research, it's about finding what works for you. And you might be thinking, oh, you are a fantasy writer, you create elves, you create dragons, you create fire blasts. Why do you need to research fire blasts? Fire blasts are, you go and flames go out. You don't need to research for that. That's why I included this previously on this channel. I've talked about realism in fantasy. I've talked about the importance of, even if you are in a fantasy world, you need to keep things grounded. You need to make things connected. You must make the fantastical be fantastical, but it doesn't matter how fantastic something is, it also has elements of realism, and you need to understand reality to use reality for your advantage in writing. So this sets the tone for today's presentation, and first I'm going to talk a little bit about sources of where you can find information, then a little bit about the methodology overall of this process, how I do my research and everything. Two big things, as I said, when we are researching for writing, we are doing things with a purpose. Our goal is not the research itself, it's to improve our work and improve our knowledge. And so it's very important to organize the information for the author's benefit and to know how to convey that information for the reader's benefit. And lastly, I'm going to talk about a very straight trap, which is the balance between productivity and procrastination. Maybe you are writing a book, and this is a very common story, and you've hit a wall, and you're like, I'm going to research. You'll start the next day, maybe more research, I don't feel like writing, and you start using research, and I'm using research, this can be applied to anything, as a way to escape your main task, and research stops being productive and it starts being a tool of procrastination. You are using research to run away from the hard part, and at that point the hard part is being writing. So that's one of the nuances I want to talk about in the end. And you see that all the time. You can be a world builder, for example, just for world building's sake. You don't need to world build for a book. But there are writers who their goal is to write a book, but then they enjoy the world building so much, and they are world building, and the book is frozen forever, permanently. The book does not evolve because they are world building. And if your goal is just world build, that's fine. But if your goal is to write a book, there needs to come to a point when you say to yourself, is my world building improving my book? Am I improving what I'm doing, or am I just procrastinating? So yeah, I've talked about the 5 contents. Now we can already skip to the final slide. Presentation done, and I'll see you on the next one. Okay. Talking about sources, and I speak this both from personal experience and for talking with others. The best source when you are writing is talking with experts. Let me just read what Grantosh said. I think this can happen in any task. Preparing, planning, researching is important, but a lot of times one gets stuck in that activity instead of just doing the task. Yeah, 100%. It can happen too, and I'm talking about writing because that's what I do, but I think it can apply to studying music theory. You can only study and never apply it. You can studying art, you can probably just practice theory, and then you never go out of that. And I think it can happen in anything at all. Also doing sports, also everything. You can get stuck in the loop of preparation and planning because you are afraid, and rightfully so, because doing things is hard. You are afraid of doing things, so you are stuck in the preparation loop. Going back to sources, experts, in my opinion, are the best source. First, they know what they're talking about, and that's great. And the second thing I love about experts is if they start getting interested, they will give you more than what you asked for. And I'm going to give examples. I talked about on Writing on Chat, the final episode, about the story that's about, I said the word about already 5 or 6 times in a row. A vampire that wants to become a writer, and that vampire only consumes blood obtained from ethical sources. It's not the classical bite someone and extract blood. No, it's like blood donations, but at the same time they don't want to hinder the supply of blood donations to treat people in the hospital. And I was thinking about it. I was thinking, how much time can the blood stay stay in conservation. If they want, for example, blood that was obtained for the donation, maybe if the blood was getting spoiled, the vampire will be like the trash can of blood. And I was thinking, how do they conserve blood? How does it work in an hospital setting? So what I did, I have a friend, and he's dabbled into writing, and we've talked about positive, that he's one of the best persons I know, a really, really great guy. And I messaged him right away. He's very busy, so he takes sometimes a little bit to answer my messages. Hey, I'm thinking about writing this. First I only asked about the blood storage. How do they store blood? And he gave me a very complete reply, filled with details. And then he asked at the end, why? And I'm like, haha. Now comes the fun part, because I know you will be interested. And I was like, oh, I'm writing a tale about a vampire and blah blah blah, and I explained everything. And he was like, oh, so make sure that the vampire only consumes the blood types that are more, like, have more offer. And he started taking, maybe the vampire can take like leftover blood from blood analysis. It could all not just be blood donations, but from blood analysis, because sometimes they take more blood than they need. But then he was like, oh, but when they are doing yeah, nothing suspect at all, asking someone how they store blood. Oh, but when they remove the blood, they use anticoagulants to help store it. Maybe the anticoagulants will damage the intestinal tract of the vampire. Have you studied the different types of animal blood and how they could be a replacement for nutrition? And we started going back and forth and talking about things, and he was giving me a lot more than what I asked for, and he gave me ideas, he gave me inspiration. So that's why I knew I was going to a reliable source. And one thing I loved, that's how you know someone is a reliable source. The best thing an expert can tell you, when you know, okay, I can trust this guy, is when they say, I'm not sure, I'm going to research and go back to you in a bit. When someone tells you that they are not sure, you can trust them. People who are overconfident and who know everything usually are the ones that you need to be fearful from. When someone says, I'm not sure, I don't know everything, give me a minute, that's where you know that you've got the right guy. And so yeah, and another, I'm going to talk another topic inside of this. There's two types of research you can do. There's active research, that's like, I want to know about this, let me go in search of this. And this is the case of my friend, of me asking him about blood samples and everything. I deliberately want to know that, and I actively went to search. But there's also passive research, that's how I call it. It's when you are watching a show, when you are living, when you are doing anything at all, you are observing, you are absorbing information. And sometimes that information don't devalue the information you get from everywhere. No, we are absorbing constantly lots of information, and it can be very useful. And for the story I'm currently writing, and this comes from an expert, but now from the passive learning side of things. There's a scene I'm writing where, like, the thieves in a city are very structured. They are very, like, no thief works alone. No, they are very hierarchy based, lots of structure. And some thieves were taking some goods to be appraised in a scene. And I was watching the other day Junk and Pom's stream. I'm sorry for going back into Junk and Pom. And Junk and Pom, as I said, he owns a pawn store and a pawn shop, and he was talking about appraising items and evaluating them and everything. And that, what he was talking about, stuck to me, valuing things and such. So when I arrived at that moment of writing, I could have just put, oh, and then the guy who buys and sells stolen items received the items, and it was like, hey, have a nice weekend. But that scene is tense, like, you are a thief, you are delivering your items, and I wanted to elongate it. It's a scene that works better. There are times where you need to be straight to the point, there are times where your writing works better if you elongate the scene. It builds tension, it builds character, it gives time for things to happen, it creates suspense. And I took things I learned from the stream, from the expertise of how they analyze items, and I was like, okay, the person who received the stolen items picked up another item, they compare that they have that's legit, they started comparing, analyzing, making sure, and that's an expert. He's someone who owns a pawn shop that I learned from, but I didn't go annoy him like, oh, answer my question. No, just by interacting with him, just by watching his content, because he's a YouTuber, I've learned about his trade, and now I can apply that to my book, to my writing. So yeah, experts, number one best source for information in my opinion. There's the only one drawback for this source, experts. If I could, everything would be experts. There's one problem. One does not know experts about every single field, and experts can sometimes be very hard to reach. If I could, everything would be like, oh, I'm writing about swords, let me call a sword expert. Oh, I'm writing about history. I don't want to make... Because when you are doing this, you are not doing the research, you are leaving the part of the research to another. If I could, I would have experts for everything, but that's the drawback from experts. Experts do not spawn when you want them to. Of course, another source, and this, it depends on what you are researching. If it's something heavy, for example, if you are talking about surgery, if you are talking about criminal investigation. Oh, and going back about experts and criminal investigation, I know that in countries where they do lots of write criminal books, sometimes detectives and everything are overrun by writers calling them and asking for advices and is this correct? But yeah, then I don't use much, only sometimes. The problem of using scientific papers and renowned sources, yes, there are plenty. For example, for statistics, renowned sources are very good. Often you can find accurate historical documents to, if you are planning something which is historical. But scientific papers, if you find a scientific paper that's 100% focused on the exact topic you are researching, for example, medieval technologies for producing swords or for producing, for working cotton, there might be a chance that there's a very well written scientific paper. It seems boring at first, I know, science, I don't want science, I'm an art guy, I'm a writer. But if you find the right scientific paper for what you are researching, it could be a blessing. It have all the information piled up, everything is trustworthy, because things usually there's nothing in this world that's 100% trustworthy, but usually they can be quite trustworthy because they are peer-reviewed and everything, and you need to trust something. It's like, never trust anything 100%, but also if you are always cynical and trust nothing, you will only drive yourself crazy. No science on my books. But that's why I talk about conveying information to the readers. A good writer does all the research about science, about everything, but the book does not feel science heavy. That's the part where one of the parts I'm going to talk about is conveying the information for the readers. Books on specific fields, and this also depends on how deep the research. Sometimes I want to know the meaning of this plant. Google, meaning of this plant. Oh, this plant symbolizes hope and freedom. Okay, done. That's my research for the day. But sometimes, okay, my book is very heavy on biology and on plants. There's entire magical system based on plants, or very heavy on alchemy and mixing plants, and I need to become not an expert, but I really need to understand this field. Books can be a great friend, like a book, a thick boy, a chunky boy, of science of plants, meanings and everything and yada yada. And you get the chunk boy and you start going through it, and it could be a great help. You won't become an expert based on a single book, but you don't need to be an expert to write a good book. You only need to make sure you don't commit huge blunders. So books can be a great help. Usually when I need to dive heavier into a topic, it's like, no, knowing facts is not enough. I need to understand, I need to connect, I need to explore. Books. That's where I go to. I would be a huge hypocrite. There's usually that stigma of of, oh, Wikipedia, fake info, everyone hates Wikipedia. At least in Portugal education, everyone talks about Wikipedia. For my books, I've researched Wikipedia a lot. As I said, because there's tiers of research that you need to do, and if you go onto Wikipedia for the, okay, I don't need that much of a research, I just need to know this and that fact, it's fine. You don't need, as I said, writers usually need to know a lot, and if Wikipedia has a short article that tackles your research, what you want, go for it. Don't be afraid of using Wikipedia. Let me just read what King Ameno is saying. No science on my books. On a more serious note, I'd actually feel more invested to an author if I knew he made this research. For example, my favorite book of all times, Way of Kings, right here. My favorite character is a surgeon, and Brandon Sanderson had the concern of, and here we go to the experts. He had the concern of talking through a surgeon, an expert, and he was like, oh, I have these scenes about surgery in my book. Can you please make sure I'm not doing a huge blunder and if everything is correct? Because if things are not explained correctly, then you probably will have doctors and surgeons reading your book, and they arrive at that point, and if a book goes into your expertise and it does it poorly, it's a huge turn-off. You feel like your immersion is completely broken at that point. If you went deep on research papers, that's a plus for me. Yeah, again, like you said, as long as you didn't turn the book into a scientific paper. Yeah, and if you want to write a scientific paper, just write a scientific paper. It's fair, but it's very important to know how to use the information you gather. That's a very true comment, King Ameno. Don't use Wikipedia, use random blogs that come from very shady corners of the internet that was written by some guy, and maybe that blog, there are some blogs that are really amazing, but there are other blogs that... yeah. But as long as it doesn't have Wikipedia, it's a valid link. Only don't include, and this is we are not talking about university, of course we are talking more about primary school, secondary school and everything, high school. I always struggle with what I should include or not. Sometimes I can feel like the author is over-explaining. That can be a turn-off for me as a reader. That's why I don't want to do it. Yeah, this is not easy at all, and I think it's also something that it's important to get good feedback, to get good beta readers, because it's impossible for us to know everything. Sometimes you may think we are pacing things up accordingly, so sometimes to get an outside perspective, but this has the same problem as the experts. Finding people to read your books is not easy when you are not huge, but if you can find, it's usually one of the good ways. But then you also need to judge the readers, because readers are differently, and if you ask the rest. Now, if you ask 5 guys who completely hate science, and maybe your book is already finely tailored, but those 5 guys you randomly pick tend to all hate science, and they'll be, oh no, it's too much. Feedback can harm you as well, so this is not easy, and it's not something with a correct answer. How much is too much? What I usually do is take a step back and look at everything. Look at what is happening in the book. Are we in the middle of an action scene? If you're in the middle of an action scene, then going into the science, probably no. Are we like in a chill part? Are we relaxing everything? Okay, maybe science is good now. Have we been on the relaxing part for like 50 pages? Okay, maybe the book needs some variety. Maybe now it's not the right time to go into science. I think the best way to answer this question is not to look at it directly, but with the context. Look at what's before that part, what comes after, and see if the science fits at that moment. That's how I would do it. But yeah, internet articles, another source. Documentaries, YouTube videos, and these YouTube videos, of course I'm here on this platform, and for me, I think some people know that thing of when you are at 1 in the morning and your YouTube autoplay just starts going crazy, and you are watching, then you are watching a 30-minute documentary of how the ants in South America are evolving and changing the world, or how the what was that one? How smaller ants are better at fighting in open fields. Yes, smaller ants win battles in open fields, while if you have more foresty things and everything, and rocks and everything, the bigger ants are at a tactical advantage. But that's passive research, and just I got distracted. Sorry. And that's passive research, but also you can do active research like that. And for example, I needed to study the process of fabricating linen things, processing linen for clothes. And I found a really good article that said, you do this, that, and that. And I was like, perfect, this is how they do it in medieval times. But all of those words were very technical, and what is this process? What is that process? And I found a YouTube channel, and that's just a guy processing linen, and it's like me doing this process, and he's spanking the linen, me doing that process, and he's now I understand, because of the YouTube videos. So YouTube is a very huge platform. It has lots of not that great content, but it also has plenty of insanely great content, very high quality. The videos from Primitive Technology, another good example of for you to study if you are building in that setting, in that time period, more primitive. But the videos from Primitive Technology, the OG Primitive Technology, are really, really good. Also, I'd add that you should know yourself. Do you have that? Yeah! That's one of the things I also say a lot. Know yourself, master yourself. There's no one shoe size fits all. You have a tendency for explaining or leave too little details. I'm not an expert. No, that comment, King Amen, you are 100% right. If you give your book to one people and they say, you are over-explaining, and then you give to another and they say, it's fine, it's one thing. If you give your book to one people and they are like, you are over-explaining, and you give to another people and they're like, you are over... Maybe there's a pattern. And you can also... That's why knowing yourself is important. You can also take this on the flip side and say, I over-explain. I know I over-explain, but this is who I am. I'm going to go all out. I'm going to over-explain like there's no tomorrow, and you are going to see through my over-explanation. And doing that, if you do it right, people may love it. As I said, there's no rules. And I forgot to say something at the start. I was talking about appreciating other persons and everything, and this over-explanation reminded me of a friend I have. I hope he watches this stream later. And that's how my age was made. True. Very true and real. One of the things you can look forward to, I've been reaching out to different people, all of them amazing, and I already have 3 collaborations planned for my channel, and I really want to talk with other persons and start having collabs and everything. If everything goes well, I'm not going to make promises, and I won't reveal who those 3 people are, because it would be very unprofessional of me to reveal, to compromise people that have not given their final word. But maybe in December we will have the first one. Maybe. I hope so. I really hope so, that in December we have my first collaboration. And of course, another source of research that you should not neglect is other books, other artworks, other games. People who did art, did their research, and when you are consuming their art, you are also consuming the research they made. They did some work for you, let's say. Of course, if you want to go further beyond, you can do so. But for example, Lord of the Rings, it has steel swords, it has mithril swords and everything. If you want to build a work that's derivative of Lord of the Rings, not the same but inspired, you can use mithril and steel and everything, and now you don't need to research materials, because they created. And that's another thing, you have those 2 sides, researching and creation. If you create things, you can do whatever you want with them. and they already did the research, they know what the materials are and everything, and now you just take from it, or adapt it, or something. When we are consuming other fiction books, other artworks, we are learning a lot, and that's okay. You don't need to reinvent. There's research you need to go deep into, but you also don't need to reinvent the wheel and, no, I'm going to do all by myself, I'm not going to trust any other book, I want to start from blank, and everything I'm going to do must come from my mind, and I will take no inspiration. Dude, I mean, you can do that, and mad respect for you if you do that and pull it off. But at the same time, it's okay to as long as you are not blatantly copying anything, and that's different. There's also always the middle term, which is fine, but also the extremes. As long as you don't fall into the extreme of copying and everything, it's fine. But yeah, sources. I'm in a rambling mood, so just talking about sources was almost half an hour. This is nice. We have arrows. Spoiler alert, arrows will show up. So, I'm already laughing because I love this. When we are writing a book, we start with creativity. Our books, like writing, is a creative process. I see we started with creativity, you can start with the research as well. But yeah, books are a creative process. And we use this creativity to create characters, items, events, locations, whatever it is. We use creativity. I spoiled the arrows. You're right, Sumo. I should have included a spoiler alert. We use the creativity to create all of these things. Characters, items, events, locations. But, and each of these things, characters, items, events, locations, each of these items has many traits to it. And we can use creativity to fulfill those traits. For example, we can use characters for a way to self-express ourselves as an author. We can use the items for it, the events, the locations, and everything. We can add lore. For example, I can use my creativity to create a lore for an item. I can use my creativity to create the epicness of the item, like the description. It's a sword, and when you stab someone, the sword starts flaming, or it drains the people's soul. And you only need creativity. You don't need to do research to create a soul-draining sword, or an arrow that you fire and it always hits its mark. You don't need research to do that. When you are expressing yourself as an author, when you are creating lore, the story of the sword, it will belong to someone who was a great hero, but then the sword got corrupted, and now you have the sword, and you listen to the whispers from the sword, and you want to cleanse it, but the sword is taking over your soul. I don't need to do research to do that. I don't need to do research to do the lore, the epicness, the emotional relevance. Maybe that hero was your father, and your father, because the sword got corrupted, is now disgraced, and you want to clean your family name, and it's a very deep story, and then betrayal happens. For the emotional part and everything, we can focus on the creativity. They're all creative aspects of writing. But then, when we start going further away, for example, if we want to describe characteristics, like physical characteristics, when we want to give names, and this is hard, when we want to make things relatable, historically accurate, believable, ground our creations, make things coherent, we start getting further away from the field of creativity. These are things we created, the characters, the items, the events, but creativity is not enough to complete our creation. This sounds funny, but it's true. And then we resort to research. And for example, naming is a good example. Props to TheNando for including naming, past TheNando. Congratulations. Because people are often like, how do you find all of those names? And some authors create patterns, let's say, for the namings. Oh, people from this civilization only use vowels, or they use symmetrical names, or things like that. But you can also, people research a lot about how names are created, how words evolve, how civilizations have different names. You search for lots of inspiration, and the same for characteristics. I work with steel a lot, I work with aluminum a lot. But if you don't work with some of them, maybe you don't know the difference in shine, the difference in weight, how the materials react. Maybe you are making a forging of a sword, and how warm does the sword need to be? Of course, if it's forged in the flames of a mountain or something, it's one thing. but if not, how does it work? How strong is the metal? If I hit my sword with this force against a rock, will the sword break or will the rock break? Depends. If it's a magical sword, maybe the rock will break. If it's a steel sword against a normal stone, maybe the blade will get chipped. And to know these characteristics, to make things accurate, you need to research. And so these two things go together to make things. But what if it's a magical rock? That depends on the sort of incantation. Is it incantation based on runes drawn in the rock? Was it an alchemical process that you infused the rock with power? Was the very material of the rock itself not granitic or basalt or anything? No, the core structure of the rock. But yeah, magical rocks. And this would not be complete without this final arrow. This is the most important arrow. Your creativity can be boosted by the research you do, and your creativity drives the research you need to do, and these are not... This was like a trap that I created. I started with them on opposite sides to make, no, these are very connected. Your creativity is connected to your research. Yeah, the famous bottom arrow. I did not spoil this one. Your creativity drives your research feeds your creativity, and it's a loop and things go around and yeah. And now for the best part, when you look at this picture, what does it remind you of? With the bottom arrow. And I'm even going to give a small break to serve myself another cup of tea. And for me, it was very obvious when I was making the slide. I finished this slide, I stopped and looked, and I was like, dude, this looks like... it looks like a hat to me, not a hat. This is a cauldron. We are cooking. We are taking the creativity and the research and we are cooking a book. This analogy is so... I really wanted to include this slide. This analogy is so silly. The transition, I love it. This is my kind of humor. Yeah, it's the same. We are cooking. When they ask who let him cook, the answer is Fernando. Fernando let him cook. Cook the book, chat. Take your creativity, take your research, do great things, and cook them together. It's time to cook, Jesse. No, not that kind of cooking. But yeah, writing is cooking with creativity and research. But yeah, so we have a purpose when it comes to research. We define a method to reach a goal. And creativity drives our need for research. And all cooking is important, for without cooking there would be no life. That sounds like a Lord of the Rings quote. Gandalf saying that to Samwise when he is preparing the third breakfast. Creativity brings us authors, we reach a point where we need to research. We feel that. We hit... and I say authors, for example, artists also need to research. So search for references, search for different types of clothes and everything. Most art needs research. And one of the things I wanted to point out is, don't underestimate how much you know. Check if you actually need to do research, because the first source, I include all of the other 6 sources, the first source you should try is your own head. Do I know this already? Stop and think. You'll be surprised at how many times just stopping and thinking and giving value to your own knowledge. People tend to underestimate themselves a lot. So check if there's a need for research, but okay, there may be a need for research. And before researching, we need to establish questions. That's one of the good ways for us not to get lost. It's before jumping in, before starting going from page to page, write down your questions. I want to know this, that, and that. And one thing you can do for if you want to be hyper productive. I'm not a hyper productive person. I intentionally let myself procrastinate a little bit because I think it's needed. But you can set, for example, an alarm every 5 minutes. I'm researching, then 5 minutes pass, let me look at the questions. Am I addressing them or am I just wasting time? It's good for you to establish questions before diving into the problem. It will make your your research go better. It will make you be more focused. It will make you not get lost. Maybe it will also help you not get intimidated, because sometimes you feel like that's another thing I didn't talk about. Sometimes when you need to research, you feel like, oh, I need to know everything. I need to go into millions of fields and be an expert of them. If you write the questions, no, I need this, that, and that. That's all I need. Don't waste your time. You don't need to become a master blacksmith to describe how a sword is created. You don't need to study the structures of the steel, the atomical structure and everything. No. And is this an important scene, or is just a passing scene? Maybe, okay, guy hits sword with hammer, that's enough of a description. So establish the questions, search for answers, but also search for questions. And that's why I love talking to experts, but this can happen in any type of research. Sometimes when you are researching, new questions arise, write them down and add them. This is not procrastination, this is creativity, this is... The research itself can be our inspiration, and you might find questions during the research that you were not intending to find, and then you search for their answers, and this creates a loop, and suddenly, voila, you hit the specific thing that was needed for your scene in the book. But yeah, for me, research is about three things: finding the sources and then diving into them, collecting the information, and then organizing it. For me, these are the three main things, the three actual points of the research. And now, next slide, we are going to start talking about organizing information. So I'm going to take this small opportunity to do a quick break, and I'll be back in like 5 minutes. So enjoy for those of you who have not yet watched the Bookshelf Cam 2.0, enjoy the Bookshelf Cam 2.0. I'm TheNando, and I'll be right back. Hello, I have returned, and I was reading chat. There's nothing like a growing library. Seeing what others makes me happy. Yeah, there's. It's my favorite thing is when chat is a little bit active during the breaks, and then I return, and I love reading what chat has been up to. And if let me put the previous slide for no spoilers. If I want to be honest about the future of this channel, I think Bookshelf-san is growing in power, and you know those YouTubers that have more than one channel? Probably in the future the main channel will be Bookshelf-san's channel, and this will be like the secondary channel. TheNando writer something will be just the secondary channel for the silly videos of the guy talking. Everyone will be gathered for the Bookshelf-san's Bookshelf-sama probably is more fitting videos. And what was the other silly thing I wanted to say? I had more. It was not a silly thing, it was an awesome thing. Speaking about the bookshelf, today I received a mail that is like, yo, TheNando, we've sent you more of your merch that you've ordered from Japan. Expect more merch to arrive in 1 or 2 weeks. And I was like, no, I just revamped Bookshelf-sama and now I need to find space for the new merch. I say no, but I'm like, yes, more things, more. Grow a bookshelf. It will not be books, it will be merch, but there's a place for everything, and I also want more books. But before getting more books, I need to read more books. Yeah, just replace your camera with Bookshelf Cam and your viewers will grow millionfold. I'm laughing, but who knows, maybe. Maybe that would happen. But yeah, organize information when you are researching. And another thing that I wanted to talk about, you might be scared, like, oh, TheNando just keeps rambling, he's getting sidetracked, and he prepares presentations with millions of slides, this stream will never end. But as I said, this is shift time, and I've also changed how learning with TheNando works, and now I prepare less slides. Because I usually got very tired in the end, I'm very focused, I got to deliver all the information I've prepared, I did so much prep work and now I don't have time and let's go rush mode. No, I don't have that many slides, we are progressing at a very good pace. To be fair, the stream never ended, I won't be unpleased. That's one of my, I want to do this one day, but I need to reach a point where that's viable. There's two things I've been considering for my stream. One is to one day make a stream, but that one I really need to think about. That's what you say. You also learned with TheNando. Yes. I learned with past TheNando for sure. First one that I'm not sure about is maybe one day making a stream, Zatsudan stream, where instead of focusing on a topic on everything, it will be like the Get Real stream, where I will be talking about, yo chat, I have dreams, I work, I do things, and you know, life sometimes doesn't go the way we planned, but things are a really down-to-earth talk. Like, it will not be like me complaining for 2 hours, oh, I'm annoyed with my work, I just want to write a book. No, nothing like that. But maybe where a stream where I acknowledge, let's say, the negative sides. But as you can see, I'm a very positive person, but I acknowledge them and I say how I contextualize them and how I overcome things. But it will be a very heavy stream, let's say, and I'm still discussing with myself. I open the mirror and I'm like, yo, TheNando, let's talk a bit. What do you think about this stream idea? And the other TheNando starts replying and doing a little bit of a Fernando Pessoa there instead of being Fernando Gonçalves. But I'm still thinking about that idea, making a really down-to-earth stream, let's call it. I'm not sure about that. The other thing that I really want to do one day, but my life needs to reach a point where I'm able to do it, is make one of those 8-hour streams or 16 hours. One day I'm going to do that. Mark my words, I really want to test myself to do an endurance-like stream. I don't know what type of content it would be, but that's another one of the challenges that I want to do. So if you are looking for a non-ending stream, I can almost promise one day we are going to have it. Yeah, organize information. It accelerates the writing process a lot. That's the main reason why I like to organize my information. If anytime you need to do to search, maybe you already researched the information, but it's chaotic and you want to search for a fact. If instead of like click, open, click prices, and I say prices because that's one of the things I recently had to research was about the prices used in medieval time, because I was talking about money, about gold, about silver coins and everything was very incoherent, and I was like, okay, stop, Fernando, you need to research on it, or else people who are reading this paying lots of attention will get thrown off by how incoherent you are being. And now I have a table of prices, a table of wages. I based myself on historical data and I mix it with things that make sense inside the world of my book. And now when I'm writing, instead of being, oh, I'm writing and the shoes cost, oh, I don't know how much shoes cost, let me Google online price of shoes in medieval, and the chain of thought is completely broken during that time where if you have the information. Now I just open file with the prices, how much shoes cost, 5 euros, very good shoes, 5 euros, and then you continue writing and your train of thought does not go out of the creative mode because you already prepared the research. And hello Maru, welcome to today's stream. You've already been mentioned at the start of the stream today. I already did you a shout out, and I'll probably send you a clip of it later. So don't if you want to see it, you don't need to go to the work of trying to find a timestamp or anything. Today I'm in a very positive mood, very positive vibes, and I wanted to share it, so later I will send you the clip, probably no, for sure. I just write it down. Chotomate kudasai, chat-san. Because I should do the same for Eisen. Okay. Another good thing about organizing the information is that we all forget things all the time. Information decays, and if you research something and like you need to search for references for drawing or prices of things or something, and you don't organize your information and you keep getting it lost. Today you are doing this research, next week you are doing that research, a year from now you are doing that research. So start building, and that's the next thing. Start finding what's important for you and building your own toolbox. You need to have, it helps a lot when writing, when you start accumulating things. This is my information about maps, this is what I know about geography, this is my information about items, this is my information about material. Organizing the information and everything. It's work to organize the information, but sometimes it's 1 hour of work now that saves you 10 hours of work later. When we are organizing, we're also converting raw data into useful information, and that's also very important, because if you are researching I was talking about prices. What's 5 euros without context? 5 euros is a number, could be 10, could be 20, what's the value of money? But if you start organizing information, okay, this costs 5 euros, this costs 1 euro, this costs 20 euros. You stop having random scattered pieces of information and you start having something that is useful for you, and that's how I said at the beginning of the stream, that's your goal, is to make your things better for you, make your work better, focus on yourself. And another important thing about organizing information is that you start creating a network of sources. Okay, this site was great for me to search about prices. This site was also great for me to search about that thing. Okay, maybe this is a good site. It starts appearing referenced in my sources a lot. Maybe I should explore this site. And a YouTube channel, for example. This channel is great for me to study this specific field, and having a list of sources, having your own personal treasure of information in your vault for whatever art field it is, it's very valuable. And that's why I think it's very important to do this work of organizing this information. And hello, Eisen, we were just talking about you. I don't know if you said it. I have here a note written in a beautiful font saying that I need to send you and Maru a clip, so you can wait for it later, because I've talked about you already on stream. Yeah, as I was saying, and this is bold, and how many times does it happen to anyone? One day I found that great website, I found that great thing, it answered all my questions. I one day, during the 3 AM cursed YouTube browsing, I found this amazing video, but now I have no idea where to find it again. Save your sources. Don't save only what comes out of those sources, save the source itself. I usually have a list of links. If I have like a table of information, I have the links stored right next to them. It will save you lots of trouble in the future if you need to verify anything, if you need to go back to it, if you are like, did I dream of this information? Did this fact actually happen, or did I dream of it? Did I imagine it? Was this real? And if you have that database, you can just click, okay, this was actually real, I saw this video, I did not dream that I saw this video. And when you are organizing information type, another important... When you are organizing information, another important thing is to determine the information type. What are you searching for? Are you searching for knowledge and facts? Do you want to become a master of something? As I said about researching the plants and everything. Maybe the best way to organize your information then is to synthesize, to make things shorter, to take notes. Okay, I don't need to know everything, let me make some small notes, let me start organizing what I need for future me and save this is valuable information. And if you are looking for knowledge and facts, maybe this is the best way. If you are looking for numerical data, if you are looking for example, how much time does it take to go from this place to that place while walking, while on horse, while biking, while swimming, how much things that convert to numbers, having data, tables, charts, things that are very visual and that also help you as a writer get excited about the data. And there are people who are very easily excited about the data and other people who are like, no, not data, data is my biggest... And I understand both sides of the field, but sometimes organizing things can make them more pleasant for yourself, more clear. And when I say clear, for example, if you have two characters rushing to a place, for example, you have two armies and you study and they have different transportation methods and you've studied how one is faster to the other, and you have bars side by side and you see one like it takes this amount of days and the other takes this amount of days, and you are yourself as a writer feel like, oh, the difference is huge, this is going to be massive, the transportation between these, the difference in transportation, now that I can see the data, I'm not looking at a 5 and 10 or a 5 and a 20, I'm looking at a small bar and a big bar. Dude, look at the bars, they are different, and that helps you also to feel motivated to convey this information for the readers, and we'll get about conveying information in a bit. And if you are doing information related, we've talked about knowledge and facts, then numerical data, and finally experience. And what do I mean for experience? One thing that helped me a lot in writing books is that I've practiced quite some martial arts. I've practiced kendo, fighting with a sword. I've practiced naginata, that's fighting with a bladed spear. That's the best way I can describe it. I've practiced hema, which is historical European martial arts, which is fighting with a two-handed sword, a big chunky sword. At least the part of hema that I practiced it. And I don't practice it anymore. And your experiences start fading away. So it's good to record how it was like while they are still fresh. For a more silly one, I got surgery like some time ago, it doesn't matter for the context, but it was my first time that I got general anesthesia. And I felt like the time jumped. It's not like local anesthesia or something. No, it's not like sleeping where you wake up and you feel like, time has passed. How much? 2 hours. No, for me, general anesthesia was like, hey, how are you? I fall asleep. 3 hours pass. Doing right now. And it's like, wait, 3 hours have passed? What do you mean 3 hours? It's like time was deleted. That's how I felt. And I was a writer already then, and my instinct was already, okay, having a surgery is not a fun thing, but it is a novel experience. Let me write it down so I can use this for my book. This is research. This is field research. And I say periodically review. I don't want to periodically review a surgery. Don't make me do surgeries every week. But if you can, for example, for me, I've held blades. I have not like dangerous blades, no things with soft edges and everything. Sometimes I go to my garage and I do 1 or 2 practices and everything just to remember how it feels and everything, because I don't want to let that experience go to waste, and I periodically review it. And yeah, it's good. It's experiences you have from real life should also be counted as a source of research and should also be treated accordingly. Cantos, I agree that numbers are not the best way to convey information for everyone. Yep. Well, a spear is kind of already a bladed weapon. Probably bladed polearm would be more accurate. Yeah, a bladed polearm, that's better. A bladed staff. That seems like you were attacked by a JoJo stat. He got Zawardo. Zawardod. Happens to the very best I've heard. Yeah, I got attacked by an enemy stan. What was the name? When I was thinking about the name for this show, there was something like Fernando's Learning Adventures or something like that as a suggestion for the name of this show when I was discussing with friends. But yeah, and finally, one thing that's very big, it's on the last but not least, doing a hierarchization of your findings. Like, this is Fernando's Bizarre Lectures. That's a great one. Doing like hierarchy of things. For example, if I want to go search into something and everything is at the same level, let's say, of importance, and I open the file and I like, oh, I want to search for this type of information, and I am hit by a wall of 700 lines of text, and I'm like, I already want to give up on researching. It's like I talked about, it's very important to keep your motivation at whatever you are doing. But if I have like my folders neatly organized and I'm like, okay, book research, medieval times, finance, prices, open the table. Oh, you have jobs, the price, how much you get paid for jobs, items, the items. It's so much better. Hierarchization, organizing and everything. And as I said, this is things you are preparing for yourself. The reader will not see how much work you put into it, but you are doing it for yourself. And as a writer, this can help you a lot. This type of information management and everything. For me, hierarchization, having the fields, this is important, this is not, it makes data and everything much more manageable. And now we arrive at one of the key questions for authors. It is, okay, I have an encyclopedia knowledge of many random facts. I know that broccolis are not a natural species, they were created they were like purposefully manipulated to exist. That's why broccolis are evil. I know also that the fur from alpacas starts getting hollow when it has more than 6 centimeters, I think, of length. I also know that... What other facts do I know? I know so many... so many random facts. Yeah, broccoli are... What is it? I think it's broccoli. I think broccoli are not a natural plant. Like, we humans bred broccoli. I think it was in Italy. I think broccoli are not a natural species. So yeah, don't trust broccoli. But yeah, okay, I have all this information, I know all types of metals that exist, I know the temperature point, but how do I make this not sound boring? Because information, if it's for the right person, if I'm talking about metal, and I'm not talking about metal music, I'm talking about metal, aluminum, steel and everything. About someone who likes metal, they will love it. If I talk to anyone else, they will hate it. If I do research about plants and I talk to someone who loves plants, and many people love plants, it's amazing. If then I go talk to someone who has zero interest in plants, and when I say zero interest, I don't mean hate. When you hate something, at least you have a negative interest. Sometimes it's even worse when you have zero interest. It's even worse to make someone interested when they are just apathic towards it. Okay, so one question, how do you feel about explaining wrong information or purpose? Maybe because the characters are stupid and won't be able to understand or know how things work. I like when chat does this. That's on my next slide. That's on my next... And how I feel about that, I feel it's great. That's one of the things I always say. One of the important things of knowing the rules, of knowing how things work, is breaking them. And that's one of the good things about research. You need to know how things work to write someone who is ignorant in a convincing way. Kinda, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Maybe you can make... If you don't want him to be corrected, you be ignorant and write ignorant on the topic, fine. But if you are a master of the topic, you can make his ignorance really shine. In a good way. Because that's character building, and character building is a very important pillar of writing. But yeah, when you convey information, these first three topics are basically the same. Be humble. Okay, you've spent maybe 2 weeks researching a field and now you feel like you are the greatest because you are the master of that field. And if you start treating your audience like, okay, you don't know about this, I, the great author, know about this field, I'm going to throw you the information, and I know this because I researched, and you reader are clearly inferior. If the reader already knows about this, he will think, what a jerk, I already know this. If the reader doesn't know about it, he'll be right, I don't know it, but I don't care, why are you bragging so much? It's very important to be humble with your knowledge, and that shows. You might think, oh, that's a subjective thing. How will a reader be able to know that the author was being arrogant? They will know, trust me. When you work on art, on any kind of art field, music, you convey a lot more than what you intend. And when it's writing, there's so much nuance with choice of words, with how much importance you give to any... You communicate so much through writing, so many details, not developing other arts, but I know more about writing, so I can talk about writing more. You communicate so many tiny details. If when you are writing, you are feeling, oh, I need to explain everything in super detail and even go over the obvious, like, water when it's heated gets hot and then you heat the water too much and it starts boiling. When water boils, it evaporates. When water evaporates, it goes from a liquid into a gas. Ah, you silly reader, you did not know that. And did you know that then if the gas cools down, it turns into water again? That's amazing, I'm such a master. No, don't... You can explain water boiling. You can and you should explain water boiling if that's pertinent for the plot. But don't explain it in a way that sounds condescending. And you can... Cocky Fernando is incredible. Thank you. And as I said, you can do it in character voice. For example, you can have a cocky character and make the character be purposefully annoying. You can do that. But if it's systematic, if it's the narrator constantly being... Every single detail, he needs to explain everything. That could be, one, you are overly passionate and you want to convey that passion. Or two, you did your research, now you know, and now you want to show off that you know. I know how steel works, and you are going to have to suffer through every single detail of how steel works so you can understand how great I am for knowing how steel works. And yeah, this is very important. Don't be condescending. Readers are wise. Only state the obvious if that is what you are doing intentionally to do something on your work. Stating the obvious can be a very powerful tool if you are doing it intentionally. If you are stating the obvious because you think others don't know the obvious, it will sound wrong. another thing we've talked about on stream already, it's pace the information flow. Don't go first chapter. This book is about blacksmithing. What's the first chapter? Oh, that I was about to say the first chapter is describing in detail how a sword is crafted. That could actually make a good, if well written, that could make a great first chapter actually. Like an entire first chapter just being a blacksmith forging a sword. I was about to criticize, but I think it could work perfectly. But pace the information flow. If it's description, 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 text, 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 research, 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 facts, facts, people get overwhelmed if you start bombarding them with names, bombarding them with technical information. And this is something I forgot. When you learn technical names, don't overuse them. If, for example, I'm going to give a silly example because I don't want to do... Now I'm going to... water evaporating is... I don't know, vaporization in English, is that the correct name? Or imagine a hammer hitting a sword. And imagine the technical name for that is clanging. Just to be silly. It's clanging. And no one knows what clanging is. You did your research and you found out what clanging is. And now you are like, oh, I know the word clanging. I'm going to use always clanging. And then the guy who is reading is, okay, what's clanging? Oh, it's just a hammer. Why didn't the author put hammer hitting? Why did it have to use the fancy word? Avoid using overly complicated words. If you had to research the word to know it, probably a lot of your readers will also have to. That's not using normal language. It's not being condescending, because you might be thinking those things of, oh, you are being condescending by using normal language. No, that's just talking normally. If you overcomplicate your words, like if your book is very heavy into plants, you can start introducing gradually plant terms, and the reader, since they are gradually, okay, I've got this nailed down, now I know that concept, now I know this species. It's one thing, but if you go all out, full technical, dude, no, people will suffer. Don't write 5 chapters only house description. Yeah, like a house, I get it. True. Yeah, also, show don't tell. Maybe you've researched the whole process of crafting a sword, and you know that the steel is being, the atomic structure is shaping when you cool off the sword, because it cools quickly. The outer shell gets, I forgot the technical name of that steel, but it gets very hard, and the inner shell is soft, and that boosts the resistance. Okay, maybe make a master and an apprentice, and one quenches his blade and the other doesn't, and then they both start to strike, and one is very bendy and breaks like right away, and the other cuts perfectly. You know how things work, but now you are showing the reader that if you don't quench a blade in water, it gets a lot weaker. You don't need to go into technical explanation, show don't tell. And this one is also important. Learn to cut and let go. Maybe you have 20 pages of information. Okay, you got 20 pages of information, but you can't use it all. It's hard, but sometimes it's like, okay, let me press 19 pages selected and now press delete because they are useless for my book. And this is hard. This is very hard. But this is a hard lesson that you need to learn as a writer. And the one thing I always say, never press the delete button, press the cut and paste it into a paste of like unused material. That will make the pain easier, and if you one day you regret it, you can go back. Never... I'm very against the full-on delete button. I prefer cut, remove, and store for later. Psychologically, it will be softer, the blow, and if you regret it later, you can go back and restore it. And I say, cut and paste instead of deleting, learn to cut. Yeah, just copy those pages into a lore explanation book and it's done. Oh, you are also... The last thing about in this topic about conveying information is that you don't need to use the book itself. The book itself can convey information, but make use of the other tools. Appendixes, wikis, maps, calendars. You can use... Because that's different. One thing is you throwing everything at the reader, and the reader is like, I want to continue the story, but I have this wall of information and I need to... It's mandatory. And another thing is a reader that I want to know more about the map. Let me Google the map of this world. Let me Google the calendars. And it's very different if the reader is searching for it or if you force the reader. And that's why appendixes, annexes, wikis, maps, calendars are great, because you can showcase all the information without forcing it onto the reader. That's another thing we've talked about. The information flow must serve your story. You can have lots of information or almost no information, but you are writing a book, you are writing a work of literature, you are writing a story. The information and the research must serve the purpose of making your story be the best story that you could possibly can have. And now the thing that Kratos talked about, characters have different knowledge levels. And this is very good to increase your character voice, to make your characters feel more unique. You did the research, and now that I understand about swords, I can create someone who is a master crafter, I can create maybe a journeyman, I can create an apprentice, and I can create a complete ignorant people. And maybe I said don't use technical terms, but maybe the master is very cocky and he only uses technical terms, and now that you know it, the reader will understand. I'm not supposed to understand this. It's someone who's very, very overly confident and wants to complicate things. And now, that thing that previously did not work, because you are doing it intentionally, because you are doing it for character building, now it's making your book shine. And also, the best way you can also have to make ignorance is, I love the expression, the thingy. You have a character, two viewpoints. I grabbed the hammer and I struck the sword. The blade was shaping, the silnsecure. And then you have another character. I grabbed the thing, the hard thing, and I started banging, and loud noise came out when the thing hit the other thing. Using the thing is a very good way to express lack of knowledge on the field. Calling things thing. So, yeah, research and knowing different levels of information are very good to convey information. And for example, the last book I read, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, they talked in some parts, the Nightmare Painter is one of the main characters, and he talks about things from arts, from perspective, from anatomy study and everything. What you need to study to be an artist, because if you have a character that's an artist, you need to know a bit about the art process. And that making Painter, the name of the character is Painter, making Painter talk about these things, and I've studied this field and that field and I'm a master now. Showing his knowledge in contrast to other characters who are not that skilled at the art makes it work really well. And because the author did the research, he can portray how a master talks and feels. And I don't want to spoil the story, but it's very good. I wanted to say something that makes complete sense of how well written Painter is as a character, and how it's I'm not a painter, but I feel like in many ways he conveys really well what a painter is like, but revealing that would spoil things a bit. Information can be very good at slowing the pace, and this is important. We always talk about fast pace is good, but there are times where slow pace is good, important, and needed. And when you need to slow down the pace, information can be a very good way of doing it. For example, for tension. You want a scene to go slowly, the characters are sweating, what will happen out of it? So you start getting descriptive, you start putting more information, and the reader is like, so much information, I want to see what's happening, but you are doing it purposely, you are like slowing down the pace. For example, a good example of this is, I'm thinking about when I watched the cassettes from Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot. When it's the time for revealing the crime, he doesn't say always like, this person is to blame. No, he starts with the explanation. Because on that day, Mademoiselle no sei que was trying and talking about that, and then Mademoiselle, and he starts with the explanation, the lore dump, and like, the explanation is reaching a point and you're like, it's going to be that guy. But then Mademoiselle no sei que and Monsieur were talking about it. No, it's not that guy. And you have that information dump. But since it's the information dump before the reveal, you are like at the edge of your seat, you are being bombarded by information. Yeah, that's very common. Before the reveal comes the information dump, because people are at the edge of their seat and you are like, you're going to have to wait. And since you are you want to get there, you even though it's information dump, you are very hyped and you go through the information dump, and what in other cases could be boring, that at that time it's being amazing because you are really diving into the information dump. That's what the whole book has been building up to. Another good thing, detailed description and masteries over field can be amazing to read. Even if you are not a master crafter, you are not a master painter, if a reader knows and understands how to portray a master over a field and then describes him well, you get, from the book, you get so much respect from that field, and it can be really inspirational. And I think if you learn how a master operates of that craft and you can convey that through the book, you already have a great character. I feel like well-written masters of crafts make for great characters. And finally, because I already said the last one, as I said, creativity and research, they are not independent things. Mix them, cook them, boil them, and mix well, and nice things will come out. We are almost finishing, and my voice is already saying, "Fernando, finish the stream!" And I'm like, no, just 6 more slides, come on! But yeah, productivity versus procrastination. First thing, research can increase or decrease your workload. And this is very important. As I said, your research is serving you as an author, it's serving your work. If your research is making your work go worse, if your research makes you have to work more, and you are not producing things correctly, maybe you need to shift your approach to research. There's no one size fits all, as I've said constantly. You need to find what works for you in research. The goal of your research is to make your work better and also to decrease your workload. For me, researching makes writing easier. If after you've done all the research, then writing is harder, maybe it's something on your organization, maybe it's something when you review the process, because if you are doing research, it's to serve yourself. And if the product of your research is making your life hell, of course, sometimes it can happen. For example, you have a plot point and you do the research and then you figure out that, okay, because of how sailing works, because of how the winds work, this plot point makes no sense. And that in those cases, research is increasing your workload, but it's making things better. There are times where you just reach a point of, okay, I've researched and I figured out that I was wrong about this. And you need to be humble in those cases. Another important thing to avoid procrastination is determining the level of detail needed. As I said, you don't need to be a master of all fields. Establish, okay, I only need a basic knowledge of this. Let's go. Or, okay, this is really important for this story. I'm doing a story about biology and biochemistry and biological weapons and everything. Okay, maybe I need to study human immunology and how diseases transfer and everything. Maybe I need to study viruses. Maybe I need to have a little bit more intel on how medicine things work. Another thing, I always say this, procrastination by itself is not a negative thing. I hate not hate is too much a strong word. I don't like to use the word hate. I dislike the portraying of procrastination has something negative. Procrastination can be really important, and procrastination well dosed can really improve your overall productivity. These are not opposite concepts, they can help each other. And this is very important. Losing yourself in research is fine if intended. There are times where I start researching and I know in the middle I'm like, oh, I'm just procrastinating. And then I need to take the decision. Is it important for me right now to jump back into productivity? Is there a deadline coming? If there's a deadline coming, okay, cut the procrastination, let's go back into the productive side. Or is today a holiday? Am I relaxed? Okay, and now I found a topic I want and I'm not in a hurry today. And maybe it was a very, very busy week and I need some time to decompress. Okay, I'm losing myself in research. Is that bad? No, it's fine. I'm going to continue doing it. I think it's more important to be aware of the state that you're at than to than to try to force yourself into being productivity or procrastination. If you are procrastinating but you are aware of it, I don't think it's a bad thing. That's another thing. Research is a part of writing, but it is not creative writing. That's why I talk about it can be a fuel for your procrastination. If you want to write a book, and this is something super common. People want to write a book and they start the research and they continue the research and then they continue the research and they spend an entire year in the research. Maybe you just, either one of two things, maybe you just don't like writing and that's okay, or maybe you are afraid and you need to push yourself, you need to get out of the comfort zone and start writing. If you spend 2 years writing, researching, that's great, you have lots of information, but you need to be aware that you have not written a word yet. So if someone asks you, what's your experience in writing? You can say 2 years, and that's correct. But at the same time, you maybe have 0 years because you have not started the actual writing. And that's not easy. I'm not saying, oh, writing. No, starting the art itself, starting to write. I think starting to write is the hardest part of writing. As someone who's starting the craft. Once you go with the flow and you go over those first years of suffering, it becomes a lot easier. But I think starting the art, you just feel miserable. You hate everything you write, you feel lots of self-confidence issues, and you start dreading the moment you need to start writing. I think that's normal. I also believe there could be people who start writing and love it right away, but there's sometimes you need to force yourself through those hard periods to get to the good part. I was thinking about an analogy, but I'm only thinking about how you need to eat the shell of the apple to reach the core, but no, the core of the apple is not the good part. I'm thinking about things that are good on the inside. And finally, this is something that's not for everyone. There's work management tools, as I said, putting times, defining, for example, every day 2 hours of my writing day in 2 hours will be for research. There are people who shine with this organization, with this structure of their time, but there are people who, if they try to organize things rigidly, it completely kills off their vibe, it kills the mood, it kills the enjoyment. So these work management tools can be great if they are the right thing for you. If they are not, you can either learn to integrate them or simply abandon them. They are not one size fits all, has everything. And this ties with the last thing, know yourself and find your methods. This is the most important thing. If you find that doing research like this or like that works for you, that's great. You don't need to do research in the way that works for TheNando. You don't need to do the research in the way that works for Kratos. You need to do research in a way that works for you. And this is the most important part. And for example, when we talked about the sources, this is something I wanted to mention and I forgot. One source that many people use is groups, like Discord writing groups, in-person writing groups, Facebook groups, any kind of group, and forums, online forums. There's lots of people who are like, I'm researching this, hive mind, help me, and people start debating. That's an information method that I do not use. I feel like when I ask people to do that, they tend to take it into the way that they want, not the way that I intended to, and I start seeing their view, and sometimes it's good to have the other view and get lost in them, but sometimes it's bad. It's like I want to stay focused and you are incentivizing me to lose into hundreds of side questions, and maybe they start asking details and you are like, I don't want that much detail, you are just hindering my progress. Why? So for me, groups don't work, but for many people they work greatly. Many people are great at analyzing things, it boosts their creativity. So it's one source that for me I don't use, but that doesn't mean it's a bad source. It just means that I personally don't fit into that source of information. Because you need to climb the mountain to enjoy the amazing views of the peak. Yeah, exactly. It's important to spare yourself the suffering, let's say. Suffering without need is why. But also sacrifice is sometimes a part of growing and leaving it's about striking a balance. I'm very, very against the idea of glorifying suffering. Many people try to glorify like, oh, I wanted to become an author and I spent 4 or 5 years not sleeping at all because I was training. And I'm like, I'm sad that you had to go through that, and that's not a good thing. That should not be celebrated. Suffering should not be celebrated. But at the same time, there's the opposite end of the spectrum. It's like, okay, I want no suffering at all, I want no sacrifice, I don't want to do any effort at all. I just want the outcome without putting any effort, and that also doesn't work. It's about striking the balance. Yeah, Bakuman, there's a reason why Bakuman was in my top 5, I think it reached the top 5 animes when I talked about anime the other day. Yeah, some takeaway points. Creativity and research are intertwined in writing. Research is a part of building your writer's toolbox, and this toolbox is very important. Research can get a lot easier over time because you learn how to research, you learn what works for you. Just because today researching for writing is hell doesn't mean it will always be. That happened to me a lot. Research can take many forms. It could be phoning someone. There's this idea of research is like, okay, research, boring time, engage, reading through documents, reading through things. No, research can be watching an engaging YouTube video, it can be talking with a friend, it could be going through documents. There are people who love going through documents. I love going through documents. I say this because I know many people don't like. I love reading documents. So research can take many forms and make research what works for you. Value passive research and your knowledge. When you are watching a show, when you are watching everything, you are researching. If you aren't doing so intentionally, value that, value what you know, and at the end of the day, enjoy the process if you can. If you can't, suffer through it and try to minimize your suffering, but if you can, enjoy it and drink a cup of tea along the way. This brings us to the end of today's Learning with TheNando. I'm glad to be back in this format. As I said, I probably won't return to writing with chat, but this is a format that I haven't done in a long time and I enjoyed going back to this comfort zone. Maybe I'll do like one a month of these. I had a good time, and it's one of the things, going into a ramble again, that differentiates, nice, I said the word, differentiates this content a lot from writing with chat. Writing with chat was writing, but I felt like writing with chat was harming my writing. I actually felt like my writing was getting worse, and that it was my motivation and everything. I feel like writing with chat was harming me as a writer. And these streams are the opposite. These streams motivate me to write more, these streams make me want to research, these streams are good for my writing. That's one of the reasons why I want to do more. Not all Learning with TheNando will be writing focused, most of them will, but not all. But one of the reasons why I do want to do this format, as I said, you need to be greedy, you need to be a little bit selfish, and this format is good for me. And that's very important for me. So, the stream went by flying. Oh, thank you very much. That's always a nice thing to hear, of course. But yeah, today was writing for writing fiction. Research for writing fiction. You can tell that I'm starting to get tired. Tuesday, I'll be back to continue playing Disgaea 7, because I'm not going to use sweet words because I'm addicted to the game and I want to see where the game goes. And then next Sunday we'll return with Majesty. I also want to, now that I'm more relaxed and everything, I want to go back to the silliness that's playing and streaming Majesty. Here's the calendar for the whole month. I will always show both of them. We have a break on Sunday the 19th because I'll be participating in a Go tournament, and one of my future streams will be me teaching chat how to play Go, the board game. And I will give you feedback on how the tournament went after it. Probably I'm going to place near the bottom because I haven't played very much. I played like 10 matches this whole year and that's very little. But yeah, that's the future. Today is today. And quote of the stream... of course. I was thinking what the quote was. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. A very famous quote from Socrates, and that's why you need to research. Because we know nothing, and even after researching we know nothing. And that's my philosophy in life. I can't know everything, so I surround myself with people who know from different fields, because I can store all the knowledge, and that's why I like to have different kind of people and everything. I know how much I don't know, and that's why I like to rely on others. A nuance, don't be annoying to others. Because that's as I said, always extremes. Don't be like, oh, you know about this, let me ask you a million questions every single day about this topic. No, acknowledge your own ignorance, and that will help you progress. And knowing how much you don't know will make you more humble to do more research and improve your writing. Yeah, this is a very famous quote. I don't think I need to explain it very much, but I thought it was very fitting. And calm down. I'm building a repertoire of quotes. I love that word, repertoire, on my Discord, because I'm starting all of these quotes. And and the other day I was searching for a quote for something, and I was like, oh, let me just go through the list of quotes. So I'm really glad I started this habit of picking the quotes of the stream, and it's a habit that won't go away. So we've reached the end of the first episode of Learning with Fernando. That's actually called Learning with Fernando. The previous ones are called that as well because I changed the name, but this is the first one that originally aired with that name. We've reached the end, and I want to repeat the positive message from earlier because maybe not everyone was here. Remember to acknowledge the positive things in others. Be nice to people. Kradantost and Stephanie were both nice to me right now, congratulating me on the name changes and everything. Congratulate people on the decisions they make. When you see an artist do something that you think was very good, say, no, your artwork is really good. When you see a friend being honest and positive, say, you're a really positive and honest guy. Appreciate people, appreciate what they do, compliment them. We often, by instinct, point out the negative traits, but remember also to point out the positive traits. Sometimes just a small comment, just a small remark will hit like an insult can hit you in the soft spot and make you miserable for maybe a week or more. The right compliment hitting the correct spot, just a few words, you will make someone's day. So remember to be positive, share the wholesomeness, share the good vibes. No, I meant the good vibes. And with that being said, I was Fernando, I still am Fernando. This was Learning with Fernando. Yes, I need to remember the name. And this was a stream. I don't know what more to say, so I'm going to switch to the ending screen, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.